The reason why you are getting nowhere fast is because instead of changing and accepting everything that comes with change, you're trying to negotiate with your future and your past habits. Your future self is not trying to negotiate with your past habits. All that stuff that you did to get you to this point, your future is expecting more and requiring more of you. And today, we are going to talk about why staying the same will cost you everything. Zell, you ever been in conversation with somebody and they say something to you like, oh, well, you're just going to have to accept me as I am because this is who I am? What if who you are is trash? What if who you are is too subpar for the version of yourself that you actually want to be? Like, what if that vision board version of you that you actually desire to be is going to require more of you? Like, what if it's requiring you to elevate? What if it's demanding that you change? What if it is expecting that you inspect yourself and say, this simply isn't good enough? The version of me that was building business in 2012 is not the version of me that's going to allow me to accomplish this year's goals. It's just not going to happen. And we have to go through a state of maybe the word change or reinvention is what's scaring people. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe instead, let's just say evolve. Evolve. Like, it means the same thing, but I'm just trying to make it a little comfortable for you guys to understand that you cannot leverage this current version of you in 5 years. Like, in 5 years, that version of you is going to require more information, more education, more emotional control, more financial stability, more clarity, more something. You are going to have to continue to evolve, because if you don't, you are trying to operate new dreams and new goals from a version of you that stopped growing, from a version of you that stopped learning, from a version of you that stopped becoming. And you'll know when it's time to reinvent yourself. I love entrepreneurship so much, and I love being a content creator and a creative period, because it will challenge you to constantly be in this cycle of reinvention. But companies do this all the time, and I'll give you a couple of examples of companies that refused to reinvent themselves when the time said that it was necessary or required to do so. How do you know when it's time to reinvent yourself? You will know because you will simply outgrow things that used to interest you, things that used to attract you, things that used to stretch you. Like, these things will become easy for you. The things that you are doing right now will feel as though it has stopped working. I see that you're watching the episode, and I just went and checked your profile. I literally just clicked on you, and I saw that you're not subscribed to Full Transparency. Why are you not subscribed to the channel? Go ahead and do that. Subscribe, like, share, and leave a comment, because I'm going to pin my favorite one. I'm watching. I'm waiting. Did you subscribe? No, I'm still looking. I just went. Don't play with me. Go subscribe. And it's not because you're no longer great. Like, sometimes people think that when things aren't working, it means that they're not good at it. It's not that you're not good at it. It may be because you're operating from a version of you that's just outgrown whatever it is that you're used to. Reinvention is not becoming someone new. It's about shedding the layers of a version of you that simply doesn't work anymore. It's not in alignment anymore, and it's certainly not going to serve the next level of you. But I understand why people choose to stay the same. I understand fully why you choose to stay the same. There are moments in my own life where I think it'll just be easier if I didn't have to be challenged to grow in this area. Man, listen, if you could just still operate the way that you used to operate, talk to people how you used to talk to people, do half-ass work the way you used to do half-ass work, and you were happy with those results, life could probably be easy for you, because it's easy to accept mediocrity. It's hard to make a conscious decision to change and go after excellence. I get why you shy away from it, because you've convinced yourself that you're stable, and stability is just another word for comfortable. It's another dangerous word. Stability is what makes you feel safe right now. We all say it. Oh, I need stability. But is stability ever stability? Like, when you think about it, You know what I mean? Like, even when you are building a house and your contractors are putting together this foundation for your home, right? If you are a part of the building process, you'll want to go through and walk through the home, walk on this foundation, and you want to make sure that this foundation is stable. Because as long as it's stable, as long as that foundation has some stability, then it's safe. You know that it's safe. And you're going to move your family in and you're going to start to live your life and things are going to be great until a few years later, you'll start to hear some creaking in the floor. A few years later, you're walking up your stairs and you start to feel like this sinkhole in your carpet. You're walking on your floors and you're starting to feel like these pockets of holes, and you're hearing more creaking in the roof. You're noticing that there's a little water damage coming in, and what used to be so stable and feel so safe has now been compromised because these elements are outgrowing its environment. They need to be modified. They need to change. They need to evolve. And you are just like that house that at one season, you operated just fine. You were doing just fine. Nobody could notice any flaws. But when people use you enough, when they get close to you enough, when they access you enough is the word that I'm looking for. When they begin to access you enough, when they have enough proximity to you, now some of your flaws will start to reveal themselves. Some of the things that aren't necessarily even flaws that make you a bad person, but sometimes flaws that explain why your situation is your situation. Sometimes people can come to me, Zell, and explain all these things, and I'll spend some time talking to them, and immediately I can see, you're here because you're this way. You're here because this is how you are, who you are, what you are. Sometimes you are right where you're supposed to be because that's all that you're showing and demonstrating yourself to be at that time. If you are not operating from a state of excellence, then you probably don't have excellent results, right? If you are operating from a place of mediocrity or average, then your life probably matches that. But you're comfortable, it's stable. That paycheck that you're afraid to walk away from, or some people won't even start a business because of a job that they don't even have to quit. When I went full-time in 2014, when I went full-time as an entrepreneur, I was already in my business making at least six figures in my business before I walked away from my job. Sometimes we're saying, oh, like I've literally talked to people who say, yeah, I really want to start a business, but my job just requires so much of me and it pays me well. And then I'll hear from these people 2 or 3 years later, and they've been terminated from their job. Their departments have been eliminated and things like that. And stability is just in that moment. You are only as stable as you are present in that current moment. Anything could happen 5 minutes later, 5 days later, 5 months later, 5 years later. And all you're doing when you choose to stay the same, when you choose to keep the same character, keep the same job, stay in the same environment, all you are doing is creating this invisible, almost stagnation. Like you're moving, you wake up every day and you put on new clothes and you're going into work and you're actually getting the paycheck. You're still moving, but you're not progressing. You're still moving, but you're not progressing. This job that's preventing you, you're so tired, you're so busy, and it's preventing you from actually seeking out more. 5 years later, still has you living paycheck to paycheck. How is that stability? What are you afraid to walk away from? The debt? And I never tell people that they should quit a job in order to start a business, because that's not what I did. In fact, when I tried to do it that way, it simply just did not work. And so I had to leverage, or the way that I chose to do it was to leverage my job and transition and stay. But as I'm building this business, the type of employee that I've become now is different. The type of leader that I become now is different, because as I'm building my own business, I see what's required to make something actually be successful. When you don't adapt, when you choose to stay the same, when you choose comfort over a challenge, when you choose stability over a challenge, when you choose safety over taking a risk, you lose traction. because those same things can be congruent with your inability to shift, to adapt, to adjust. And I think right now, everything that's happening in the world, like we're in the middle of government shutdowns. If you're watching this in real time, we're in the middle of government shutdowns. We've got government workers who are being asked to work for free, but they had that good, stable government job. I know every single last one of y'all heard, get you a government job because it's stable. You have, we have just the economy shifting. We have a lot of political things that are happening. We have people's worlds literally being shaken up. I mean, think about it. The internet, something new pops up on an iPhone every update. Every update, something is adjusting. The internet resets literally every 6 months. If these business models and the things that are currently running us, like AI hasn't been such a public-facing thing, but for a very short period of time. And I want you to think about when you got your ChatGPT subscription, like many of you just got it like in the last 12 months, right? Just really started to use AI, not realizing that businesses have been using AI for years, for decades even, right? But you just I want you to think about 12 months ago, 6 months ago, when you finally came around to using ChatGPT. Look at how different it is today than when you first used it. Look at how more sophisticated it is today because they heard the feedback. Oh, this doesn't talk like it's in my voice. Oh, it puts these symbols in there that makes it obvious that it's ChatGPT. Oh, it doesn't do video well. Oh, it gives you answers, like it hallucinates and gives you these answers that don't even make sense. It's listening. The creators, the founders, they're listening and they are making adjustments and reinventing the program over and over and over and over again too. And it will never stop. I was talking to somebody, a good friend of mine, about healing. Healing requires that you reinvent yourself literally every day. Like, especially for those of us who are healing from trauma, not just healing from things that have slowed us down or broken our hearts. I'm talking about people who are healing from real trauma, just traumatic, horrific, sad experiences that would break someone else. Talking about those people. Anything could trigger you at any given moment. A memory, a picture, a thought, a voice, a smell. Anything could trigger you at any given moment, and it requires daily. Healing well requires daily that you choose a higher version of yourself, a version of yourself that doesn't allow yourself to succumb to negative feelings and emotions, doesn't let a moment throw away your whole day, a version of yourself that knows that it gets better even though it stays, right? The pain of this trauma, it sticks with you, but through growth and reinvention and adaptation, these things get better. You evolve. The pain lightens just a little bit. It lessens. But there are these seasons that you'll go through where it feels like something that happened to you that you thought you healed from, it feels like it just happened yesterday. You're triggered and you're constantly going to be reinventing your character, your energy, your frequency. We'll be recalibrating these things. You're in a season now where it's literally you against you. It's you against you. I saw this on Instagram the other day and I thought it was so interesting. I saw a post that says, every single day it's you against you and one of them has to die. Every single day it's you against you and one of them has to die. If the internet resets every 6 months, if your cell phone, which you operate the majority of your life from in this day and age, reinvents itself every couple of weeks, resets every couple of weeks, why would you think that you don't have to do the same thing or you shouldn't do the same thing? Your identity, your content, your business model, these things should all be consistently evolving over and over and over again. A couple of examples of companies that did not evolve or did not adapt and they lost momentum. Blockbuster. Blockbuster. It refused to adapt into the online space, and it literally took itself out of business. No, we're going to remain the pillar of being in the home. We're going to remain where families get to come in on a Friday night and grab their little Blockbuster bucket of popcorn and pick their 2 to 3 favorite movies. And then Netflix comes along and says, well, just have Instacart deliver your popcorn. Stay in the comfort of your home, spend more quality time with your family, go through that same library of options on your TV, sit here, watch it, and after you enjoy it, all you have to do is turn the TV off. You don't have to be inconvenienced by having to get in your car and return a movie to Blockbuster within 48 hours, or you'll be billed practically the cost of buying the movie. Blockbuster refused to adapt. And then came Netflix. Hey, you guys, real quick, sorry to interrupt because I know you're enjoying the episode, but I had to make sure that you remember that you deserve to be a part of my mentorship community, Actionable CEO, Actionable CEO, Actionable CEO. Are you there? I'm giving you 7 days for free. Why aren't you at least trying it out to make sure I am the mentor for you? If you enjoy Full Transparency Podcast, the conversations, the tips, the nuggets, all the things, come on over to Actionable CEO. Let me help you get right. Personal development, professional development, money development. Let's get it. Get back to the episode. But first, actionableceo.com. Bye. Clubhouse came out around, the pandemic, and it had such amazing momentum. It grew incredibly fast. But those creators over there weren't willing to listen to the community. I remember being a part of that founding community, and we'd meet with the owners of Clubhouse, and Maddie J, would facilitate these rooms and put us in here, and we talk about how this platform could be better, but nothing ever came of it, right? And so while I believe it's still around, it doesn't have the momentum that it did because it refused to adapt in other ways. Like you've got these audio voices that are able to have conversations and these chat rooms. Well, now other platforms just came in and did what you did better and still have access to so many other features. You have to build something sustainable, and sustainability is going to require that you have the ability to adapt. Your next level is not going to negotiate with your old habits. And that's really a thought for you to think on. You want to be in this great relationship. You want love, but you're not willing to change how much of a micromanager you are. You're not willing to change how much you complain. You're not willing to work on the fact that you overthink a lot. And when you think about your past relationships, you've probably failed in those relationships because your default setting is a negative perception or a negative perspective. Oh, if this person hasn't called me in 3 hours, they must be cheating on me. And you're looking for the man or the woman to accept you as this negative overthinker. Nobody needs to or has to deal with that. Maybe if you want this picturesque relationship that feels as amazing as it looks on pictures, maybe it's time for you to say, you know what? Overthinking and my default setting being the negative what if versus what if everything is great? What if they're napping in this 2 hours that they hadn't returned my call? What if babe is over there finally getting the rest that he needs? I would love that for him. Instead, what if you made a conscious decision to become that person? How amazing could your relationships be? But no, you want people to accept you as you are. Well, ma'am, sir, who you are needs some work, all right? Needs some work. When you are self-aware, you'll be able to determine when it's time to evolve, right? And I want to give you a couple of things that will be an indicator for you. I've got a couple of notes here, and these are things that happen for me specifically, and things that over the last, 12 plus years of working with clients, I've noticed continue to show up as a pattern when we need to shake things up a little bit. Sometimes we just got to shake the table, okay? And here's some ways for you to recognize when it's really time for you to adjust. Number one, your results are declining. Like, you're not just experiencing a bad week or a bad month, not even just a bad year, but year after year, month after month, your results continue to tank. And sometimes you could even be doing more, but getting less. Oh, let me offer more of this. Let me do more calls. Let me show up more in this way. Let me take more assignments. But when you do the math at the end of the day, you're still getting less, even when you're doing more. When you're declining over a period of time consistently, you have to, as quickly as possible, do an audit. You have to do a self-assessment, a business assessment, a relationship assessment, and identify areas that can be improved. And those areas are typically going to start. You can find those areas typically by starting with the number one complaints that you're getting or the repetitive feedback that you're getting over and over again. Okay? The second way to identify that it might be time for you to reinvent yourself is when things no longer feel aligned, right? Your success looks good, but it doesn't feel good. I experienced this a few years ago where I'm at the height of my career. I am more successful than I had ever been before, and it looked good. It just no longer felt the same. Like, I don't want to do this anymore for money. I don't want to do this anymore for free, right? I just don't want to do this anymore. I've outgrown it. And so, for an example, at one point, I was a huge advocate of the network marketing industry, and I still advocate for it because I experienced what it did for me and those who did the work just like me, right? But today, I probably wouldn't affiliate myself. It's no longer aligned for me to build a network marketing company. That's just my personal story. Now, if someone came to me and said, hey, I'm looking at this network marketing company, after a series of questions, I might say, I think that's a great idea for you. I still point people to it because I was successful at it. And even while successful at it, I decided that I was no longer aligned with that. So I moved on. I owned a cleaning business, a cleaning company, and I was successful at it. You know, that company made six figures, multiple six figures. But at some point, I was just no longer aligned. I didn't even want to delegate it. I don't want to have conversations about wine spills on carpet, right? I don't want to receive another call or have to figure out how to problem solve if a customer calls and says their Rolex is missing and we're panicking for 3 days. And then they say, oh, I forgot that I put it in the bottom of my purse. Like, these are just not conversations I want to have. It feels misaligned. It's time for me to adapt. It's time for me to move on. Number 3, repetition. You find that you're saying the same thing the same way, but people have stopped listening. People have stopped listening. This happens a lot when you are communicating messages where maybe you're not sure of yourself, or you are the overpromiser and under-deliverer. You're constantly telling people things are going to come and then they never come. So now people have checked out, right? Because you're not putting action where the words are. You're saying the same stuff. Oh, he's always saying this or she's always saying that, but it never happens. So now I've stopped listening. Now I'm questioning your expertise. I'm questioning your authority because of simple things that you keep saying and never doing. It's time to reinvent. Ask myself, why do I keep making these statements over and over and over again? And why are my words losing credibility? You find that you're losing credibility, there's something missing in the process, in the system. Have you been consistently dropping balls? Have you been letting down your community or your followers, your buyers? Something has to happen there, even in your relationship, right? You're saying the same thing. You're having the same arguments over and over and over again. And before, you know those arguments, Zell. You know those arguments that you'll have in a relationship where in the beginning, let's say your wife brings something to your attention. In the beginning, you're like, babe, you know what? You're right. I'll fix that. I'll work on that. And then a couple of months go by and it's the same conversation. You're not excited to hear about it, but you know what? I fell back. You're right. But the consequences that she told you that were going to be put in place for not doing X, Y, and Z, it doesn't happen, right? So for example, you may have an agreement where she cooks all the time, but you got to wash the dishes before bed. That's your agreement, right? Well, the first night it doesn't happen, she talks to you about it. Babe, I get it. You were tired. Can you just kind of make sure? Because we don't want rodents and bugs and things. And then it happens a second, third, fourth time. And now she's fed up. She comes back to you and like, babe, I'm cooking for you every day. This is the agreement. Can you please keep the kitchen clean? You realize, you know what? This is a repeat conversation. You won't have to tell me this again. And then you do it again. The 6th, 7th, 8th time. Well, she tells you this time, if you don't start washing these dishes after I cook, I'm not cooking for you anymore. Everybody for themselves. You find whatever food in the streets you need to find. I'm not cooking. But now the ninth time that you've done this, she tomorrow comes back in that kitchen and she cooks because her guilt kicks in and she's like, I'll cook for him. I know he's not going to clean up the kitchen. Well, now the 12th time you've done this, she's still putting a warm meal on that table every single day and you don't clean these dishes. She's stuck cleaning it. When she says something to you this 12th time, it's like, all right, yeah, all right. But in your mind, you're also saying, girl, you ain't going to do nothing. You know what I mean? You ain't going to do, because you've lost, her voice has lost credibility. What she said she would do over and over and over again lost credibility because she never did it. She let you make the mistake or choose the consequence, but she never implemented the consequence. So if you're finding that you are constantly repeating the same thing, but your voice has lost credibility, check yourself. Did you actually do what you said you were going to do, or are you dropping balls? Number 4, resistance. You feel some resistance, meaning when you're approaching certain situations, scenarios, places, relationships, you feel the pull to change. I want to show up different, but fear of what you'll lose if you do. I want to change what I offer, but if I do, I might lose my current customers. I want to increase my price, but if I do, everybody might leave my community. I really want to start making some changes to who I am on a spiritual level, but my man isn't into that. And if I do, I might lose this relationship. You're feeling resistance, but you're afraid to take action because you're afraid of what you'll lose. And what I'll say to that is there are ways in which we can introduce these new concepts to people. We can communicate and position our messaging in a way that makes people feel a part of this new journey that you're going on, a part of this new direction. Or there are ways that you can communicate the same message and make people feel very disconnected from this new journey. And so if you are feeling resistance that's pulling you to do something different, but you're afraid of what you're going to lose, think about your delivery first. Am I delivering this message in a way that makes the people that I'm concerned about feel as though they're part of the journey? Or am I positioning it to them in a way that says, this is what I'm about to do, and either you're with me or you're not? And then the second thing I would consider is maybe it's time to lose it. You feel the urge to change, but you're afraid of losing something that maybe it's time for you to lose. And number 5, you are bored. Boredom. You no longer feel challenged. You're just checking the boxes. And this one is interesting because you'll hear business experts and top analysts say things like boredom is scalable, and I agree. The things that you do over and over and over and over again that's so boring is what helps you scale, because these are duplicatable, repeatable processes that really just don't change. Maybe they evolve over time as technology and systems and equipment tools evolve, but you're bored and you no longer feel challenged, and you don't even see how to find a challenge in this environment anymore. Nothing that you do will make you feel challenged here. You're bored out of your mind. You're unhappy because of the boredom, and you're just going through your day, checking stuff off. You're just checking stuff off, and you don't feel anything. Maybe it's time for you to adjust. Maybe that doesn't mean that you are quitting the business or you're leaving the relationship. Maybe it's saying, hey, babe, remember when we used to do date night every Thursday night? Let's do that again. Maybe instead of going to bed with the bonnet on, you buy a satin pillowcase and you feel excited again because your man sees you differently. Maybe instead of, sir, walking around in those raggedy boxer shorts, you go and get you some new underwear. Now your girl's looking at you a little differently. Maybe instead of just doing a weekly webinar every single week, now for the 85th week, you say, you know what? I'm going to do an in-person workshop. Same information, same content, same delivery, different vehicle, right? And you'll determine if you can excite yourself again. Business is not going to always be exciting. Life, relationships, parenting, it's not going to always be exciting. But if it's consistently making you feel bored and unfulfilled and you're just going through the motions, I don't believe anybody deserves to live a life like that where you're just waking up, checking off the same boxes every single day. It's time to shake stuff up. So I want you to literally write down which of those 5 things I said: declining results, misalignment, repetition, you're feeling resistance, boredom. Which one of those points stood out for you the most? Which one of these areas feels too familiar and not in a good way, right? Not in a good way. And is this an opportunity for reinvention? Is this an opportunity for reinvention? Is this an opportunity for reinvention? I heard somebody say, I'm trying to think of the way she said it. When peace feels like pressure, when peace feels like pressure, that's your soul asking for reinvention. When peace starts to feel like pressure, that's your soul begging for reinvention. Like the things that used to bring you peace don't bring you peace anymore, or the things that you have to do now in order to keep the peace. This shows up a lot in relationships. You start to grow personally, but you can't really share this growth because your partner is intimidated by it. They're not excited about it. So while you're over there and you're losing all the weight and they're still over there eating ribs and macaroni and cheese and mashed potatoes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner 3 days in a row, it can feel like in order to keep the peace, you won't mention your acai bowl. You'll just say, babe, I'm not hungry, right? In order to keep the peace, you're having to suppress yourself. And now it feels like pressure just for me to operate or thrive in this environment or survive in this environment. It feels like pressure on me to keep the peace in this relationship because of you. That's when it's time to shake things up and think about reinvention. Think about reinvention. You can't be happy settling for environments, conversations, a mindset, or a way of being that directly contradicts that. You can't become a 7-figure earner while retaining the mindset of a person who feels worth 5 figures. You can't become a 7-figure earner being afraid to have conversations about money and pricing. It's not going to work that way. While you're still trying to prove that your offer is worth $100 or $700, your energy is so focused in that direction that it almost makes it very impossible, if not just extremely challenging, for you to earn 7 figures because you're still trying to prove a 3-figure worth. I'm not arguing with you over a $797 program, sir. We're trying to make millions. This is for you or it's not for you. I am not validating a 3-digit worth when I'm focused on a 7-figure outcome. It's time to reinvent. It's time to reinvent who you think you are, who you believe you are. Who do you believe you are? Who do you believe you are? Do you believe you're the 7-figure earner? Do you believe you're the incredible spouse? Do you believe that you are the amazing parent? Do you believe that you are a person that's contributing amazing memories to somebody else's future? Or are you a person that's contributing more trauma that other people are going to have to heal from? Are you ready to go from hustler mode to CEO mode? Are you ready to break up with beliefs that no longer serve you? Are you ready to upgrade how you operate in business through new offers, better systems, smarter time use, investing into your business? Are you ready to finally adapt to new platforms and content forms and stop saying, I'm not the social media person? Well, if you don't have the money to hire a social media person, then you got to become the social media person. Well, I'm not too organized, so CRMs confuse me. Okay, well, if you're confused and your customers confused, guess what else is confused? The money making it to your bank account. Confusion, right? Maybe it's time for you to pivot your strategy, your content strategy, your podcast strategy, your live event strategy, your webinar strategy. Maybe instead of how-tos, it's time for you to do some storytelling. Maybe instead of storytelling, it's time for you to do some how-tos. Maybe instead of focusing on new customers in this season, it's time for you to focus on retaining the customers you already have in this season. Reinvention. One of my favorite books that talks about the evolution mindset is by Dan Sullivan. He writes a few of my favorite books, in fact, but it's called The Gap and the Gain. Get the book, The Gap and the Gain by Dan Sullivan. And it's going to walk you through and help you understand the evolution mindset and how life really can become much greater for you when you are intentional and consciously deciding to refresh, to reset, to reinvent. Refreshing how you see you, refreshing how the world perceives you, your messaging, your visuals, your tones, your content, the way that you dress, the audience that you focus on. Maybe right now, who you are serving isn't who you want to serve. Maybe who you're attracting isn't who you want to serve. I see this a lot with my clients. They want to sell $10,000 programs. They only want to work with, 50 people throughout the year and still make $1 million, but they're attracting people who can barely pay $25 for a guide or a blueprint, right? Well, now we need to reinvent. What are we putting out there that's attracting this when this is who I want to serve? You've got to reinvent your brand visuals, your tone, your format. I went from, when I started, I used to do classroom style teaching. Everything had a PowerPoint. Everything was a presentation. Screenshot this, screenshot that. And I eventually evolved. Like, I remember one day, 10 plus years ago, rushing for a webinar that I forgot that I was supposed to do. I had no visuals prepared for it. And my mom said to me, I'm panicking. My mom said, this is what you do. You know how to do what you do. And I couldn't cancel. I had to show up. And I had to prove that I knew how to do what I do without this preparation of PowerPoints and all the things that I was used to. And I just got on there and I started telling stories and I started giving case studies and I started to just speak very authentically and transparently. It wasn't read, it wasn't rehearsed, it wasn't prepared, it wasn't scripted. And that was the most positive feedback I had ever received from a webinar. It was the most money I'd ever made from a webinar. And I said, oh, wow, this was actually fun. It was fun to not be so scripted for me. It was fun to not be so rehearsed and prepared for me. And it was rewarding to realize that in real time, under pressure, I really know my stuff. And so then I started to transition more away from classroom style setting teaching to more transparent storytelling, using myself, not being afraid to put my own self in the hot seat and saying, hey, this is what I did. This is where I messed up. And now we have full transparency and we have actionable CEO. That day birthed a new version of who I was as a coach, a leader, an educator, a business professional. And sometimes your rebrand is simply waiting on your rebirth. Sometimes your rebrand is simply waiting on your rebirth. And even when we think about the cycle of life and happening in birth, we're not always prepared for the birth. But when that head starts to crown, you get in position and you do what you have to do. And so I'm telling you now that your rebrand, your reinvention is waiting on your rebirth. And you might not be ready for it, but ready is a facade. Ready isn't even real. When it starts to crown, when that head starts to crown, when that pain is right there, just like the baby's head, when it's right there and you can feel it and you have to do something, you either push or you die. It's time for you to push. It's time for you to push. It's time for you to move past the fact that you're not ready. Most people are not. It's time for you to stop leveraging excuses. It's time for you to stop being comfortable with who you are and say, you know what? It is time for me to reinvent, rebrand, realign, pop out better, stronger, wiser, faster, more evolved, more efficient, more professional, more of whatever it needs to be. It's your time to rebrand, to reinvent, and to pop out. Because if you don't evolve, you will either outgrow. Evolution will put you in a place to either outgrow your comfort zone or your potential, but not both. You have the opportunity right now to evolve. You have the opportunity to outgrow something. And some of you are outgrowing your potential because you feel safe in your comfort zone. Staying still will cost you more than failing fast. When you lose momentum, when you lose relevance, when you lose motivation, eventually you'll stop believing in yourself and you'll lose that belief in yourself as well. And my favorite, the people who hate change, who hate evolution, the people who refuse to evolve, end up resenting those who do. And that's a them problem, not a you problem. It's time for you to choose your next chapter. It's time for you to say, I'm ready to shake the table. I am ready to step into this new version of myself, because I understand that if I don't choose the next chapter, somebody else will be writing it for me. And these are your dreams, baby. Reinvent, adjust, adapt, do all the things. It's time to evolve. Who am I becoming? Who am I becoming? Who do I want to be? Are they aligned? Who do I want to serve? Who do I want to date? Who do I want to marry? How do I want to live? Who is this version of myself that I must become in order to experience life by my own design? My name is Donni Wiggins. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Full Transparency. Also, as a reminder, you deserve to be mentored by me. My community Actionable CEO is actually offering 7 free days for you to come and check it out, to see if this is a great space for you, to see if my teaching style, my mentorship style resonates with you, to see if it's time for me to be a part of your evolution. Go to actionableceo.com for 7 free days. It's $97 a month thereafter. Really easy, in and out. Just like this episode, in and out. Bye.